let me assure you that globally, cybercrime is rising. And I speak to my counterparts all around the world, and the numbers are going up. Cyber attacks are impacting not only 83%, I think 100%. As far as I'm concerned, it is 100%. It is not even if and when, it is whether you know it or not. Resilience means that you are now living in a digital world where attacks are taking place. That is the world in which you are living in. And how do you ensure business continuity in the face of these attacks? That is the situation. You have to accept that. I mean, you can't say कि मेरे को attack नहीं होगा. Because it's not, it's beyond you. It's like life. Everything cannot go as per the plans that you have made.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of ET Deep Talks, and I'm your host Krishna Mukherjee. Hope you all are enjoying our series on cybersecurity as we celebrate Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Well, today our session's topic is keeping Bharat Cyber Secure. India has one of the largest digital ecosystems and is now on its path towards creating an AI driven ecosystem. But is cybersecurity spoil sporting India's party? According to a research, India is the nation most frequently targeted, accounting for 13.7% of all cyber attacks. With the US coming in second with 9.6%, followed by Indonesia and China at 9.3% and 4.5% respectively. In his recent Man Ki Baat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also appealed to the citizen to think before an act, underlining the importance for people to understand this dangerous game of digital arrest. Ladies and gentlemen, to delve deeper into India's cybersecurity strategies and ways to ward off threats, joining us today is Lieutenant General Rajesh Pant, a well known cybersecurity expert. Well, he previously served as the National Cybersecurity Coordinator in the Prime Minister's Office of the Government of India, overseeing a period during which India's ranking in the UN Global Cybersecurity Index rose from 47 to the top 10. Before his role as National Cybersecurity Coordinator, he led the Army Cyber Training Establishment for 3 years. He received three prestigious awards from the President of India for his outstanding contributions during his military career. Currently, he is serving as the chairman of Cybersecurity Association of India, also the chairman of India Future Foundation, Global Advisory Council member, Cyber Peace. With that, let's welcome him and start the session. Welcome to ET Deep Talks, sir. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Thank you, Krishna. I'm absolutely fit and fine. Just a point, in your opening slide.
Basically, keeping in mind the rising cybersecurity issues these days, sir. According to you, what's the reason behind that? Why India is the target? And of course, how to tackle what needs to be done here?
So, firstly, good evening, greetings of the day, wherever our attendees and listeners are. And let me first compliment ETCISO for conducting this program during the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Uh, as you are aware, October is celebrated or rather observed globally as the Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And the theme this time is Secure the World. That means whether you're a teenager or an adult or a senior citizen or in any type of industry, just secure the digital world around you and the world will be a happier place to stay in. So, compliments for conducting this in October. And coming back to your question on rising cybercrime, it's not only in India. Let me assure you that globally, cybercrime is rising. And I speak to my counterparts all around the world, and the numbers are going up. And the reasons are, quite obvious because uh, there is a lot of, turbulence globally these days. Firstly, 2024 in any case was expected to be a very volatile year with, elections in 55 countries. There are two wars going on in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East. International laws somehow are weak, and United Nations role also. There's a big question mark these days. So when the cyber criminals see this turbulence, they are very happy. For them, this is the perfect storm for cybercrime, and then they take advantage of the lack of coordination, crime as a service, and this crime also is at different levels. So there is one crime in India which is, if you recall yesterday's Man Ki Baat of Prime Minister Modi, he also spoke about digital arrest. So there is one type of crime which is targeting the individuals, scaring them and making them either that parcel scam or KYC or something like that. So that is one type of cybercrime. The other type of cybercrime is stealing data and ransomware and taking money from corporations. So different types of crime are there, but the phenomenon is basically taking advantage at the individual level. It takes advantage of your psychology. uh, they are targeting senior citizens, etc. And at a enterprise level, it takes advantage of the shall I say, the voids in your cybersecurity processes and technologies. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. So it's a universal phenomenon. But why India is the most targeted is because of our sheer numbers. I was just seeing the Miety portal just before the show started, and talking of Digital India numbers as on 30th September 24, uh, there are 3,461 services which are operational as part of the Digital India portal. 102.78 crore Aadhars were updated recently. 774.22 crore issued documents are there in the digital locker. 1.2 crore tenders processed in e-procurement, and 1,851 departments of the Government of India in the Meghraj cloud. So the sheer numbers, provide a large attack surface. So naturally, the numbers will be more. And I think I'll take a pause here. But I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, that's right. But so what needs to be done here? It's like we have seen, of course, a turbulent year with so many global wars, geopolitical issues, and all of that. So, in such a scenario, how do you think the Indian cyberspace got impacted? Number one, what should be the strategy, in terms of like how India is implementing, what kind of strategies India is implementing to protect national cyberspace?
Let me start with the latter part of the question as to how the government is going about things. And very recently, in fact, just last month, uh, after a very, very long time, the allocation of business rules have been allotted to various ministries of the government. So this was on 27th of September, just last month. And the Government of India allocation of business amendment rules of 2024, which now specifies that the Ministry of Communication in the DOT will be responsible for the security of telecom networks. Miety, Ministry of Electronics and IT, will be responsible for cybersecurity as assigned in the IT Act 2000 and as amended. The Ministry of Home Affairs has been made responsible for matters related to cybercrime, and the NSCS, my previous appointment, and that organization is now in the allocation of business rules being given the responsibility for overall coordination and strategic direction for cybersecurity. In addition, there's a new National Cybersecurity Secretariat also that has been created under the NSA. This is as far as the recent notification is concerned. You are aware of our other organization. For the critical sectors, we have a very efficient organization, the NCIPC, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. CERT-in is already there for the incident response. There's an organization called National Cyber Coordination Center for the preventive action aspect. And for the crime, we have I4C, Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, which is linked to the regional cybercrime coordination center. And every district has a cybercrime cell. So on one side, we have a cybercrime organization. On the other side, we have incident response, a separate organization for the critical sector. And then with the private sector, there's a very close relationship, both from the certain point of view. He has a network of 700 CISOs which are connected on his net, through which he transmits the threat intel to them. And there's a lot of PPP action goes on through the regulators also. So that is how broadly we are protecting a national cyberspace. Recently, you would have heard of the national firewall also being discussed. And the private sector is very important. You see how beautifully Airtel has now come out with this, you get a message that suspected scam. So the private sector is helping the nation. So it's both ways. The nation is providing a platform, and similarly the private sector is helping, and that is exactly the new strategy that we can discuss after some time, the whole of nation approach. Krishna.
Good that you touched upon the private sector also. You talked about the private space also. So, what is the role of private sector in securing cyberspace? Do you think collaboration is the way? Recent reports indicate a concerning trend with approximately 83% of Indian organizations experiencing cybersecurity incidents in 2023. These incidents, ranging from wave attacks and phishing attempts to supply chain infiltrations, have not only posed significant threats but have also led to substantial financial losses. With 48% of organizations reporting 10 or more incidents resulting in $1 million damages.
See, Krishna, one of the reasons why the numbers are going up is also because of the directive of certain of 28th April 2022, where five or six directives were given, and one of them that the incident now has to be reported within 6 hours. So the reporting of incidents has also increased. Earlier, the rule said that it will be reported at the earliest. Now, what is earliest? I mean, for me, earliest could be 1 week or something. But now that 28th April directive, and it is not a guideline by the way, it is a directive, it has penal provision. So since now you are forced to report an incident, so naturally the numbers are going up. But that is not the only reason. The reason is that cyber attacks are impacting not only 83%, I think 100%. As far as I'm concerned, it is 100%. It is not even if and when, it is whether you know it or not. And the reason is that today, with so much of software, so much of IoT devices, so much of OT, and if you see the inventory of almost all industries in all sectors, they have gone in for massive digitalization. For you see the banking industry, for example. I mean, who goes to a bank today? So everything is fintechs and tech fins. So the attack surface has again increased exponentially. So if that has increased, then attacks will take place because there will be areas where there are exploits and vulnerabilities. So the answer today is in a very simple word called resilience. Resilience means that you are now living in a digital world where attacks are taking place. That is the world in which you are living in. And how do you ensure business continuity in the face of these attacks? That is the situation. You have to accept that. I mean, you can't say कि मेरे को attack नहीं because it's not, it's beyond you. It's like life. Everything cannot go as per the plans that you have made. So same thing happens in the digital world. And how do you create that resilience? You create it with a very simple acronym, uh, uh, PPTC. So
Okay.
PPT used to be for PowerPoint, and you add a C in that, and that acronym it stands for people, process, technologies, and cooperation. And we can expand that if you want a discussion on each one of them. You are understanding what people are, two types of people, your own workers and the skilled workforce. The processes are every SOP, cyber crisis management plans. You have to practice and practice and practice. You have to carry out VAPTs, audits, etc. very seriously. Technology is everything from zero trust architecture aspects, from XDR to network to app to cloud to data to your human aspects. And then is the cooperation. Cooperation relates to the threat intelligence and, at different levels. So at industry level, it may be within the sector, within the regulators area of influence, etc. So I mean that is how you can get over it through the concept of resilience.
Resilience. Very rightly mentioned that, sir. Another important thing here is that according to a ETCISO survey, ransomware tops the list of cyber threats. So why it is so? Like any thought around that?
Yeah, lots of thought. I mean, wherever there is money, the criminals will go for that. And ransomware essentially means that there is money in that. And while earlier, there was one agency like, say, Revel or Darkside and, things like that. Now with ransomware as a service, you have this entire enterprise. So there is the access broker who's already sitting inside various, sectors of the industry. And he also knows how much insurance has been taken. by that particular company. So he'll tell you that you can carry out a ransomware attack on this company, get 100 million ransom or $50 million ransom, and you just give him his 15-20%. And then there is a guy who helps you exfiltrate without leaving a trace. There's a guy who's an expert in the encryption part. There's a person who's expert in the cryptocurrency part. There's a person who's a negotiator, because we've been in a couple of these scenarios, and some guy pops up. He says, "Okay, if you don't want to give 2 bitcoins, give 1.9 bitcoins and things like that." So and you are aware of the quadruple types of extortion. That the first thing they do is that they leave a backdoor for future. The second is they'll take away all your data. And if you don't pay, they'll sell it on the web. Then they'll encrypt it and ask you for the ransom. And then finally, the fourth part is that they approach the employees, because they have all the credentials of the employees, and then they try and apply pressure to the employees that your company is not paying ransom, and things like that, and something that happen. So quadruple extortion, and it's very lucrative. And if you just imagine a health sector wherein life-saving surgery is going on, and you suddenly carry out a ransomware attack and tell him that if you don't pay me 100 crores, then bear the result of that. So naturally, for all emergencies, they pay. So finance sector, health sector, which are the most targeted. In fact, today any sector, I mean, you can have a nationwide NEET exam going on, and suddenly encrypt some server somewhere, and the exam stops. There'll be chaos. So it's easy money, and that is why it is so popular. And the payments, I mean, globally, you know what the World Economic Forum has said, that last year it was about 10 trillion US dollars, the biggest man-made risk to the economic progress of nation. Of course, that is the total sum of cybercrime, but ransomware tops amongst all of them.
That's true. That tops among all of them. So, coming to another important issue which had happened recently, one of the insurance companies got hit. And so, what lessons we can learn from certain attacks? Because here, like an attacker is imposing to be something, and then he's attacking the entire organization, and then he is maligning the CISO also, though that is
Yeah.
under investigation. But the thing is that what lessons could be learned, and what Indian corporates can learn from certain incidents?
So again, it comes down to what have you done to create resilience. I will come down to that basic question, and especially for ransomware, there are a number of very good options available. I mean, starting from your network segmentation. So the moment a attack comes, only a small part of your network gets disrupted, and you segregate the rest, and then you have to have offline backup. I mean, I've been telling everyone, if your data is so important, anything connected on the internet, you can rest assured that will go. So we've seen, the main data center going, the secondary data center going, because even though there are these new concepts of, immutable things and all coming out, but there is a way about going about that. So the best solution is to have a physical offline backup. If your data is small, you can do it on one of those disks. If your data is large, then you do it on a tape drive. And I've seen this happening. I've been to Reliance data center, any other data center. Every day they have this huge tape drive, which also has a life of 2 years. So after 2 years, they have to again revive the whole thing. But you see, if data is so important to you, then you have to take care of it. I mean, you can't have that. You don't have an office also now. You're working offline. Everything is online, and then you don't take the precautions. So precautions in terms of user UEBA, that user entity behavior analytics, in terms of, as I said, micro segmentation, in terms of a lot of sensors are there these days that detect, the moment encryption starts in a particular network, those sensors react, and some of them automatically carry out the remediation, etc. So technical solutions are there which have to be taken. And how does ransomware start? I mean, it starts with someone getting infected. So everywhere we keep saying that humans are the weakest link. You have to make humans your strongest link. And how do you make that? You make it by education and awareness. So you have to train your people in whichever company you are in, that maybe it is an everyday training. Don't fall for that, clicking and phishing and spear phishing, etc. So and keep testing them. I know a lot of companies who send these fake emails just to test if anyone falls for that trap or not. Because that one guy he is that zero patient, who will start everything. Even that ransomware has to start from that infected person. So that every person and his cyber hygiene is very important, and that is how ransomware can be prevented. I mean, it is like your body. I mean, you create a good immune system, and hopefully all of us will stay disease free.
So rightly mentioned about the hygiene factors, sir. Thank you. So coming to another aspect is of cyber insurance. Like as per our survey, ETCISO survey, we could see that there is like very little momentum when it comes to taking cyber insurance policies also. So it's like, do you think that it's high time that corporates should think about cyber insurance policies? Though BFSI is a sector which is like taking it, and I think it's mandatory for the sector. But what about others? Like, what is your take on this?
So I have seen in US, etc., that it is very fast growing sector. Cyber insurance, it is getting more and more popular. Uh, but my mind goes back to about 4 or 5 years, where there was a case against City Union Bank in Chennai that lost a lot of money because of a cyber attack, and they had taken cyber insurance. And when so they were quite I mean, happy in a sense that at least they got cyber insurance. But when they started discussions with the company, they found that on the 78th page of that policy, in very fine print, it was written that software errors are excluded. And any cyber attack, it will be very easy to prove that it is because of a software error. It has to be. I mean, somebody is taking advantage of an exploit, and whether he comes through a switch or whether he comes through, phishing. So, cyber insurance is still today, I think, in a very infant stage. I mean, the details are not very clear as to what all it will cover, what all it will not cover. I would definitely advise that it should be taken. It is like I mentioned the human body, so it's like life insurance. So cyber insurance must be taken, but we have to see it from the cyber insurance company's point of view as to how will they reimburse. Now, for example, you take that pipeline case in US, which 40% of the East Coast came through that colonial pipeline, and they came under an attack. So it was very difficult for the cyber insurance to take care of that particular case, or sometimes the supply chain attack. Uh, uh, so how will you prove it that cyber security processes were not used very properly? It is something like these things now will happen when the DPDP Act starts getting
Yeah.
promulgated, because in the DPDP Act, there are fines of 250 crores provided adequate cybersecurity measures have not been employed. Now, what are those adequate cybersecurity measures? You can argue from both sides. Somebody may just put a firewall and say, I had taken cybersecurity measures. So, will that be considered adequate or not? So, this part of the discussion, maybe after 1 year, when all the notifications come out and the cases start piling up with the Data Protection Board of India, maybe it'll be a richer discussion. But coming back to cyber insurance, I would definitely advise, and from the cybersecurity company's point of view, I think we have to go into a little more specifics as to if the company had taken adequate cybersecurity measures. In that case, definitely, then it is a fit case
That's
for
the need of the hour. Yeah.
reimbursement. Yeah.
That's right. Coming back to national cyberspace, sir, do you think that is offensive defense a good strategy for securing national cyberspace?
Oh yes. I mean, if you do not have any deterrence, then you will keep getting attacked. It's like two nations facing off, and you see the way we tackle land, air, and sea around us. So, if there is no army to protect us, then from the other side, both from our western border and northern border, they just come marching in. So, whether it is land, air, sea, or the cyberspace, there has to be an element of deterrence to for the enemy, for the adversary. And deterrence is of two types. One is deterrence by denial, and the second is deterrence by punishment. So deterrence by denial means that, let's say in the airspace, we have created an iron dome sort of thing with the air defense system that nobody can enter. I mean, if he enters, he'll get shot down. In Israel also, they have this concept of, iron dome, and they have a cyber dome also now. So that is called deterrence by denial. Deterrence by punishment means that if you do enter our space, then the response that you will get from us will be so heavy that it will make him fear entering the cyberspace. So we have created a deterrence by punishment, by telling him that if you do something, you'll get punished. So same thing applies in cyberspace, that if somebody attacks your critical infrastructure deliberately, of course the problem here is attribution is an issue. But then seeing the TTPs, the tools, tactics, and procedures, and we have a list of all the APTs that are floating around. So we can assess. I mean, there are agencies who can assess which is the most likely source of this type of attack if it is on a critical infrastructure. Then, of course, similar thing, the adversary must know that he should be prepared for a similar response. So, offensive defense that you mentioned is definitely recommended from my side. In fact, the Americans have a concept called hunt forward. Uh,
Yeah,
so,
that's
let's say they have an adversary. Let's say China is their adversary. So instead of waiting for their own in their own mainland, they come forward to nations uh, where to whom China is also an adversary, and they see the types of attacks that China is doing to them, and then they take that information in order to protect themselves. So it's called hunt forward. They're looking for targets beyond their jurisdiction, if I may say so. So various techniques are there, but at the end of it, it is offensive defense, and the strategies that are coming out of nations, and I'm talking of the cybersecurity strategies. If you go through the strategies, you find all developed nations are shifting from cybersecurity to a concept of cyber power. So they are saying that, and that cyber power comes from their offensive capability. So there is a shift taking place from cybersecurity to cyber power in almost all the strategies that I read of with the developing countries these days. That should answer your question.
okay. So another counter question to this is that like you must be observing what developing nations are doing with respect to their cybersecurity strategies. But any update on our national cybersecurity strategy? Where are we on that?
Yeah, yeah. I was wanting to, in fact, waiting for you to tell me where it is now
Yeah.
that I'm out. But now that the 27th September notification is out, and the National Security Council Secretariat has been made responsible for overall coordination, you see, the strategy is ready. You may recall that the moment I assumed office, we went up to the NSA and we told them that the 2013 strategy has a number of lacunae. Although it is a good strategy, it is still in vogue. But then there was no action plan in that. We were to create the NCCC in 11 months. It is still in phase one. We were to create 500,000 cyber skilled workers. Where are they? Who has trained them? What is their qualification? So, although it was a good wish list, but then the action plan was missing. And secondly, the world has changed now. There was no ransomware, there was no cryptocurrency. I mean, the threat surface is totally different. There are new age attacks taking place. So there was a need for a new strategy, and he made me chairperson of a task force, and we worked on it. 14 ministries were represented in our task force. We went public. We got about 300 responses from the public, and this draft strategy was presented to the Prime Minister. So it's now, I think, only a question of when. I've been speaking about it for the last couple of years. So since now some clarity has come on the responsibilities, I hope that the strategy will come out, because the point was that look at UK, for example. How did they form the National Cybersecurity Center? They had a cyber attack before 2016, uh, where when they started investigating, they found that everyone was passing the buck to the other person. So they found nobody responsible for that cyber attack. Then they said there has to be an organization which is responsible and accountable for securing national cyberspace. And then the National Cyber Security Center was created. So Israel has a Israeli National Cyber Directorate (INCT). Singapore has the Cybersecurity Agency. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has the National Cybersecurity Agency. The National Cybersecurity Center is there in Australia. CISA is there in USA. Japan has also missed. So you take any country in the world, developed country, they all have a central organization. In fact, Australia has a Ministry of Cybersecurity. They've gone one step ahead. So you cannot work in silos because the way a cyber attacks takes place, it affects a number of people. It affects the incident response people. Take the Ames case, for example. Um, uh, the police, after the FIR was registered, the Delhi police came. So the Ministry of Home Affairs is involved. So if the police come, then the forensics, somebody went to the National Forensic Science University in Gandhinagar. So they've joined in. Certain was there. Then it was a critical sector health. So NCIPC was there. NCSC was also, trying to coordinate things. So there were about 10 different agencies there. You cannot find a solution with this sort of a siloed approach. There has to be a single agency which avoids duplication also. For example, in R&D, uh, uh, the NCSC controls the R&D fund, Miety controls the R&D fund, DRDO controls the R&D fund, all for cybersecurity.
That's right.
Department of Science and Technology is doing something. So, which is why I'm hoping this strategy now will find its due this thing, and we will be hopefully creating this organization that we have been all waiting for.
Are there any AI guidelines in this strategy? Can you throw light on them as well?
So, AI again is something that is affecting everyone. It is affecting agriculture also. You're seeing the use cases every day. There's a new use case.
That's
So
right.
a couple of things are happening. One is a policy which came out from the ETCIO very early. Second is the India AI mission. It is a 10,000 crore project. Although what I'm told is about 60% of that will go into creating the compute facility, because for AI you require those NVIDIA H100 types of GPU chips uh,
Yeah.
for computing basically. And then there is a Bharat GPT project, about 250 crore project has been given to IIT Bombay. I think Reliance is also joined in that. So different again, and all the IITs, everyone is working on AI. As far as cybersecurity is concerned, it is AI versus AI. So AI, the offensive person is using AI to quickly see, what are the defensive measures, and then he morphs himself, becomes benefic, and then tries to enter. And the defender is using AI to quickly see, what type of attack it takes place, and then reconfigure his systems to, stop the attack. So a lot of action is taking place in this field, and uh, all this while we used to quote Moore's law. You remember Moore's law? They said that
Yeah.
processing power doubles every 18 months. But 2 days back, Sundar Pichai has made a statement that processing power doubles every 6 months. So if that is the case, then I think, uh, you know, we are on Zoom. So everything will be zooming up in terms of research and development and, all the
Yeah.
technologies that are coming out. Thank you.
Another very basic thing from a common man's perspective. So, what should be, some of the precautionary measures which I should be keeping in mind, or a common man should be keeping in mind when transacting digitally, like the do's and don'ts, if you can throw some light on them.
Hope you're not serious when you ask me this question. In ETCISO, you should be knowing everything about cyber hygiene. And these days, a lot of ads are also there. RBI kehta hai and this and that, and
That's
Amitabh
right.
Bachchan
This
and
is
all.
for, yeah, this is for
But
others.
for the
Yeah.
yeah, I understand.
Mhm.
You see, I mean, you relate it to the types of crimes that are taking place, and for every crime, try and find a solution for that. So, one of the popular crimes is that if you do Google search and see a customer care number, the number that comes on top may not be the official number, because some frauds take place because you contact that fraud number and then you exchange your credentials and other aspects with them. So, only customer care number should be taken from the official website. Also, UPI PIN or a QR code is not needed to receive money. Some people have tried that scam also. They give you 1 rupee or something like that. It would be wise to use credit cards. At least your money is not going directly from your bank in case of a fraud. You still have about 72 hours for that credit card company. if there is a sudden signal loss, you have to report somehow to your telecom service provider immediately. That is also some type of a scam that you lose your signal, and then they take out the money because all the OTPs are then going to them. Before remote access software, if you click, there's some software like AnyDesk and things like that that mirrors your screen. So you should be very, very careful about clickbaiting, etc. These days, voice cloning has started. Recently, there was this case of this girl going to school, and then suddenly the parents get a call saying from the kidnapper that he's kidnapped your daughter, and then they say, "Okay, I want to speak to my daughter." So the daughter says, "Papa, Papa, Mummy, Mummy, मुझे kidnap कर लिया," and all that. So and then they paid almost some few lakhs, and after that he rang up the school just to confirm uh, how things are. Then the school says your daughter is sitting in class. So parents could not recognize, with the voice cloning techniques that are there, parents could not recognize their daughter's voice. So we have to be very careful about deep fakes and voice cloning, etc. And then this aspect of sextortion is there. Don't fall for it. Digital arrest, as the Prime Minister said, nobody carries out digital arrest these days. Loan apps, one has to be very clear, especially the free apps that are available in games, especially for children. Anything free, you are the product. That is a dictum. Social media, one should always exercise, restraint and self-control. All those privacy aspects that you accept blindly, you have to be very careful whether you want to share with everyone, with only your contacts, or with no one. All those options are given there. And I think finally, software must also always remain updated. You should use strong password, use multi-factor authentication, etc. So these are, most of the common issues that every citizen, uh, uh, you buy a smartphone, so you must. I think smartphones should not be sold unless you have a certificate that you've gone through a cyber hygiene course. I mean, personally, the way things are happening, I feel so bad, when pensioners and people are losing money. So it's like buying a car, without a brake, so without a driving license. So I think first you must get some sort of what do you want to call it, a digital license. Then you are allowed to buy a smartphone. So those are some of the common tips, for citizens.
Last but not the least, sir, one most concerning issue in the cyberspace, or to put it in other words, what keeps you awake at night?
Well, what keeps me awake at night is something else, actually. It is not cybersecurity. It is my pet dog. These days, I don't know what has happened to him. He keeps waking me up and he wants to go out. But that is on the lighter side. The serious part of cybersecurity is not IT. We are, and having spent 5 years in that post, it is not a website getting defaced or some social media thing that was of worry to us. What was of worry was the OT part. The power, the nuclear facilities, the telecom networks, and the strategic sectors, and then health sector. So we have 7 sectors which we had divided as critical sectors, for which NCIPC, as I mentioned, is responsible. So the OT attacks are the ones that have more serious consequences. And now you have seen like how Stuxnet was there in 2010. Through cyber, you could create a meltdown in a nuclear facility. And with what they have done on 17 September, affecting the supply chain and injuring 3,000 or 4,000 people of Hezbollah all around through a command. So those are the serious stuff. It is not the IT. Of course, IT is also there from the ransomware point of view and data extraction point of view, but the serious impacts are the OT aspect. So that is was something that was of concern to me.
Thank you, sir. It was wonderful interacting with you. Thanks for those great insights. Let me hand it over to my colleague Akansh for some one liners response questions. So, over to you, Akansh.
Hi, very good evening, sir.
Hi, Vakansh.
It's really been incredible, insightful, and very informative listening to your discussion from past more than 30 minutes. So I'm starting with the rapid fun fire segment. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving to another segment of this program, that is rapid fun fire, where we will get to know Lieutenant General Rajesh Panji in a more personal and a fun way. So I'm starting with my first question. One word to describe the current state of cybersecurity in India.
Challenging. It
Very
is
challenging.
very, very challenging because of the scale of things and the transition to the digital public infrastructure and the plans that we have for the future also, and with AI and stuff coming in. So in one word, I think it would be challenging.
And the geopolitics, day-to-day changes of
And the
geopolitics.
geopolitics and 2024 and beyond.
Okay. My next question is like, which country is leading cybersecurity innovation? The United States of America, Russia, China, or India?
I would put my money on Israel.
Israel. My I was also thinking for the Israel, but I didn't take the name. But I was also thinking for the Israel.
And the reason is I just gave those examples of, Stuxnet and this pager attacks and
Major
walkie-talkie
attacks.
attacks. And not only that, we've been attending the Israel Cyber Week for a number of years, and they have given us demonstrations of jumping the air gap, uh, that you have a network not connected to the internet, then how do you, jump over that? So, I mean, that is innovation. And some of the
Okay.
techniques we can't discuss here, but that's why, when you ask me innovation and cybersecurity, the first name that came to me was Israel. Although a lot of things are happening in the US also. If you go to the one of these conferences that they have, somebody
Mhm.
is hacking a drone, somebody is hacking a satellite. So all those things are happening. But I think cutting edge innovation would be Israel.
Israel. Yes. So, like dark web. Whenever you hear about dark web, does it make you fascinating or frightening?
I think frightening would be closer because
Okay.
there's no fascination in seeing that weapons are being sold and drugs are being sold, and you want to kill
Human
somebody.
human trafficking is also very common.
Everything, you want a guy to be killed, you go there, and you want drugs to be home delivered, it is there. And cryptocurrency payments and everything wrong is happening there. So it is frightening, and I always keep discussing with people, why are we allowing people to get away with this just by using a Tor browser? You enter it, you are anonymized, and you are, having these markets and all that are available there for all the wrong things. So it is frightening, and I think seriously something needs to be done about it.
So, is government of India is failing to control dark web?
No, it's not government of India. You see, you have to understand the architecture of the internet as to
Mhm.
how it's like an iceberg. So there is a portion of the internet which is indexed, right? Indexing means that if you use a browser and you carry out a Google search of Akansh Gupta, then it will give you all the points, or say where you've taken part in, and YouTube and things like that. So all that is indexed is there, but that is just about 5%. 95% of the things that are there in the same architecture are not indexed, and that you have to go through the
Okay.
Tor browser. It's called the Onion browser. So
Okay.
that is where things are anonymized, and you go through 2 3 hops, and it provides you with anonymous. That's why all the wrong things are happening there. So we have to get together, and globally it has to. It can't be done at a national level.
In 3 words, what does digital India means to you?
3 words:
Yes.
India's soft underbelly.
India's soft
Underbelly.
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 Underbelly. Okay. Can you
Yeah,
please?
yeah, yeah. Because it
Can
is
you?
digital India. It is revolving around software. So although a lot of public infrastructure is taking place, millions and millions of money is being transacted, but still, from the cybersecurity point of view, it is India's soft underbelly, and which has to be protected.
Okay. 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 If a global cyber peace treaty existed, which country would India find most beneficial to partner with?
So anyone who is attacking us, we shake hands with them. If there is a global treaty like
No,
that.
but like we have regular cyber threats from China, Pakistan, and
Yeah.
Southeast Asian countries. So how we can come up control
See, I
this?
mean, you have to live in a real world. there is an ideal world. The sort of question you're asking is something in an ideal world. Whom would you partner with so that you don't get cyber attacks? But in the real world, it is not only cyber. If there is a strategic adversary, then he is trying to take adversarial action in a number of different aspects. From the economic point of view, from the strategic point of view, from other terrestrial point of view. So cyber is one of them. So he will not partner with you. So you can only partner with the countries with which you have cooperation. So let's say we have a global comprehensive strategic cooperation with the US. We have a special strategic cooperation with Russia. To that extent, I mean, hats off to our Prime Minister and our External Affairs Minister for, you see in Ukraine now, both sides they're talking to, and with both with Russia also and with America also. So it's our foreign policy that way is excellent. So the answer to your question is that uh, ideally it has to be with one of your strategic partners.
Okay, what milestones or goals should India aim for to achieve a cyber secure nation by the end of this decade?
Oh, I am very clear on that. And you heard me talking of the National Cybersecurity Agency or whatever organization you want to call it a name. I think by 2030, two things should happen. One is in the Ministry of Defense, we should be able to create a cyber command. Presently, we have a Defense Cyber Agency, which was the first stepping stone actually to creating a cyber command. So at least that Ministry of Defense part will be taken care of. And at a national level, we have to have a national cybersecurity organization which is accountable and responsible for securing national cyberspace.
Okay. One piece of advice you'd like to give to your younger self about cybersecurity?
Who told you I'm old? I'm still young. But if you mean by just by numbers, that if I was 20 or something, then I would say to myself, start early because I did my PhD almost when I was 60 years old or something.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, start early, I think would have been a good advice. But it's okay. I think one should keep doing things the rate at which technology is changing. And I told you about, what AI is doing to research. It's actually amazing. I mean, every day one hears new things. Just yesterday, somebody was telling me in data centers, they consume a lot of power. So it started off with putting coolers, those pipes behind the racks. Then it came to processors. Now, yesterday, someone was telling me that the nanometer pipe is going to the chip, the processor, that is being cooled so that, overall energy is being saved. So, I mean, absolutely amazing stuff is happening.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. I wrap up this rapid fire segment here. And over to you, Krishna ji.
Yeah, thanks, Akansh, for that. So, sir, we have received some questions from the audience here. How can we participate? Anand wants to know how can we participate in helping the ecosystem to create awareness about the importance of cyber risk quantification and cyber risk cover through residual risk transfer. If you can respond to that.
So, risk metrics is very important. I mean, a lot of products these days are coming out where they go to enterprises and carry out their risk assessment and vulnerability assessment, and based on that the products are put. So one is of course to keep in touch with our national incident response organization, CERTIN. As I said, he interacts with a large CISO network. The second for the critical sector is NCIPC. They also have a RVDP, a responsible vulnerability disclosure program. So a lot of young people I find interact with them and tell them, they found vulnerabilities in some sectors of the government, and they get certificates, etc. also. And the third, of course, is to interact directly with a company. If you found a vulnerability, of course, there's $1 million prize for Facebook or one of these firms I was reading today. If you find a vulnerability in that, but it is something like from the government point of view, you have to interact with NCIPC and CERTIN, and the private sector. You can check with DSCI We also have the Cybersecurity Association of India, and of course, the regulators and things like that. But it's important, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Manish wants to know what role can open source firewalls like PFSNs play in national cyber security?
So open source is a good concept because there are 10,000 people looking at it. But what happened to Log4j, etc. Uh, I'm aware of some of the programs that are put in open source, uh, where sometimes deliberately some malware is put. So that is also one has to be very careful. In the US, NIST has come out with some frameworks on use of open source recently. It's very difficult to test these things. You see, the problem is how do you test millions and millions of lines of code? But in our national security directive, in India's national security directive in the telecom sector, we are testing in some sense or the other the SBOM, as it is called, software bill of material. Besides the HBOM, the hardware bill of material, for a telecom product, we are also seeing the software modules that are there and from where they have come, and then assessing their risk in terms of whether it is a trusted source or a trusted product or not. So I would say that it is better to go in for a firewall which would be supported by an enterprise rather than use an open source firewall where it is difficult to test. At least an enterprise firewall, you can catch somebody and ask him whatever questions you want, except as compared to open source firewall.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. With that, it's a wrap. But any final word from you, sir?
No, I think in the 21st century, the mantra for survival is only two, personal hygiene. And personal hygiene means both physical and mental hygiene. And the second one is cyber hygiene. So my advice to everyone who's there, all the 46 participants here, and whether you put it on YouTube or wherever, is that please, please, please take care and be very particular about your personal hygiene and your cyber hygiene. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Well, great interaction. Thank you, lovely audience, for joining us. Thank you, sir, for joining us. It was an enlightening session indeed. And to our audience, keep on watching all these sessions and please keep on giving us feedbacks. Your feedback is very, very important for us. Stay tuned to ETCIO Deep Talks. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.